Breaking tonight, new fallout from last night's big GOP debate as a critical media now start to focus on the woman getting credit for owning the stage at the Reagan Library. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Today is a new day for the Republican field. At this moment, the pollsters are hard at work dialing voters, adding the numbers, and figuring out how last night's 3-hour brawl may have reshaped the race for the White House. And tonight we are doing some polling of our own. Check this out. We have assembled almost 24 GOP voters here, live in the studio right now, to look at the questions that have yet to be answered. Who would be best against Hillary? How will voter anger affect this field? And will Donald Trump face any blowback for how he tonight answered a question at a town hall about Muslims in America? But we start with the Fiorina story. A woman whose low poll numbers kept her off the main stage in the first debate, now being called the winner of the second contest. Less than an hour after it ended, the Weekly Standard declared it was, quote, Carly's night. The New York Post said she, quote, made her case to be the GOP frontrunner, while the folks at Bloomberg suggested no one performed better than the former Hewlett-Packard CEO. Here's a quick look at some of what impressed the critics.
Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about his persona.
You know, it's interesting to me. Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said. I'd like to link these two issues, both of which are incredibly important, Iran and Planned Parenthood. One has something to do with the defense of the security of this nation. The other has something to do with the defense of the character of this nation. You have not heard a plan about Iran from any politician up here. Here's my plan. On day one in the Oval Office, I will make 2 phone calls. The first to my good friend Bibi Netanyahu to reassure him we will stand with the state of Israel. The second to the Supreme Leader to tell him that unless and until he opens every military and every nuclear facility to real anytime, anywhere inspections by our people, not his, we, the United States of America, will make it as difficult as possible to move money around the global financial system. As regards Planned Parenthood, anyone who has watched this videotape, I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes. Watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking, while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
That's when she dropped the mic. Our panel is with us here now with reaction. Welcome, everybody. All right, raise your hand if you think Fiorina won that debate last night. Wow. And put your hands down. Raise your hand if going into the debate you were a Fiorina supporter. You liked her as your top choice. Wow. So it wasn't necessarily a field of Fiorina rooting people, but she persuaded you. What was it? Was it any one answer, or was it the overall performance? Any of you? Yep, go ahead in the front. Gary.
I feel that Carly's focus on the fortification of military forces overseas was a very important thing. We have to take in consideration the drawdown of military forces overseas post-Iraq have been somewhat...
What about Rubio? He was big on military. People were giving him props for that.
But she gave more of a comprehensive overview of what she wanted to pursue in moving forward.
How about
Rubio
you, Gary?
I think...
Hold on. Get the mic there.
I don't think it's one specific issue. I just think it was a whole personality, the way she attacked Mr. Trump and all the other candidates and the president. She was very decisive, and I think that's what the American people want.
Right next to Gary, go ahead.
But I think that she used Trump's own words is what I liked best about her answer about his persona.
Mm-hmm. What did you make of the face remark and his response, you're a beautiful woman?
He did not, his response? Mm-hmm. He was trying to pander and trying to walk it back. He wasn't sincere.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious how the women in the room, going into the debate last night, did the women like Donald Trump? Raise your hand if you liked him. No one. None of the women. But we have Donald Trump supporters here. It's just none of the women, apparently. What did you think? I said this on the air last night. She was accused of scowling at him when he said she was a beautiful woman. My own take on it was, she didn't want any further comments about the appearance. The solution to the comments about the appearance was not more comments about the appearance. your take on it. I'll ask the ladies on that. Go ahead on the end.
She demonstrated tremendous resiliency in the way that she reacted to his remarks. His remarks that I believe you are beautiful were disingenuous. And what is liked about him is he says what he means and he means what he says. But it was very clear that he didn't mean that. So his remarks were disingenuous, but her reaction and her resiliency was inspiring.
Raise your hand if you like Trump. All right, so Gary, you like Trump in the front. You're a woman and you're in the front here, sorry. Heather.
I like any Republican candidate who's not Hillary. And because I run an organization that does independent expenditures in elections, we don't take sides between candidates. But you can see where his attraction has come from. We did economic messaging work earlier this year. Clearly, the thing that is the driver, not only among GOP voters, but among swing voters, is somebody who's confident, who has leadership abilities, who is an outsider to Washington, and who is focused on making things great. What makes him helpful. Carly manages to have all those virtues without the liabilities. His core value proposition is, I'm a truth teller and I'm a fighter. And if you watch the debate last night, she's the one who owned those two characteristics.
Who here, I mean, to what extent do you think it would be useful, A, to have a female nominee on the GOP side, given the likelihood of Hillary Clinton being the female nominee on the Democratic side, or should that not play any role? Let's go to this side.
I think regardless of who it is, Trump offers no content behind what he's saying. In a former life, he was successful by getting good TV ratings, and I don't think he understands that high Nielsen ratings don't defeat ISIS and they don't fix a broken VA, and I think a lot of voters are recognizing that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any importance to having a female nominee on the GOP side, though? Anybody put any weight on that?
I don't think that.
Go ahead.
I think the candidate who goes up against Hillary Clinton needs to be the most qualified candidate, regardless of gender. Absolutely. But Carly Fiorina, she demonstrated last night that she has the foreign policy credentials. She's not afraid to go after Hillary Clinton. She obviously can't be accused of sexism if she does go after Hillary Clinton. And I think that would completely derail Democrats. They wouldn't know what to do if we had a woman nominee.
One of the moments that got a lot of attention, it wasn't in our montage, was when she talked about drugs. And she talked about the fact that she had a stepdaughter who died as an adult of drugs. And that's when she said, you know, marijuana is not the same as it was when Jeb Bush tried it 40 years ago. But it was a powerful moment, one in which she showed emotion. You could almost hear her voice come close to cracking, but she held it together. Speak to the importance of that, these candidates speaking about their own personal experience and whether it affected you at all.
Can I just
yes, go ahead.
Tie this in? For those who haven't seen it, on YouTube is an ad that the Fiorina campaign put out called Faces, which was in response to the Trump comment. And it's, I think, maybe the most brilliant political ad I have ever seen. And it presaged the answer that she gave. It was strong. It was about all Americans. And it talks about women are not a victim group. They are 54% of the electorate. And if we remember, Romney lost women to Obama 55 to 44. So having a woman on the ticket who can neutralize a lot of the issues that the left uses on women. If you look back to 2014, Fiorina was talking about the war on women, about the wage gap, about all sorts of issues that our male politicians have been reluctant to take on. She adds to that the personal empathy, as you say, of the personal experiences.
But here's the question. It is, and I say this with all due respect to my sisters, do you believe America is ready for a female GOP nominee and a female Democratic nominee?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great thing.
Don't just give the politically correct answer. Do you really believe that the two parties might do that this year?
Yes.
That would
You do.
That would be fantastic if something like that can happen. If we had two women on both ends, we've already had an African-American president. If we had two women from both parties, that would be dynamic, and that would be phenomenal for us as a country in terms of our representation of what we produce.
Did you guys know Fiorina before? She's been on my show many times. She was on just the night before saying, you know, my problem is not a lot of people know my name. My name recognition is not as high as it needs to be in order for me to make inroads with the GOP field, but I'm going to make it. Did you know her prior to the debate, and do you think that, you know, once people really know her, she's going to go up?
I grew up in Northern California, and I watched her Senate race back in 2010. So I was familiar with her, but a lot of my, the millennial generation had no idea who Carly Fiorina was before she entered the Republican field. And I would say that last night really gave her that name recognition that she's going to need going forward to beat somebody like Donald Trump and launch herself into that role as a Washington outsider.
And she's one of the outsiders. You've got
Fiorina,
you've got Trump, and you've got Carson. Although this is one of the things we're going to talk about next after the break, which is now everyone is claiming that he or she is an outsider. Every single one is like, I'm an outsider, and we have a great montage of that next. We'll show you how the candidates did. It was actually kind of clever for some of them. We'll ask you what you think. Now, there was an interesting campaign trail moment when a voter tonight, this is just breaking, asked Donald Trump what he is going to do about all the Muslims in America. That is just ahead. Plus, almost every candidate on that stage last night suggested, I'm a political outsider. I've been in Washington 40 years, but I'm an outsider. Like, none of them have ever even been to Washington before. Are the voters buying that? Our panel is back on that in moments.
As far as being an outsider is concerned, let me tell you this, Jake. I am a Republican in New Jersey. I wake up every morning as an outsider.